After faking unconsciousness, my sister's call revealed an incredible life-changing truth. Luke felt the weight on his shoulders grow heavier as he poured coffee at the diner, the steam rising like his hopes. He glanced out the window to see his neighbors mowing their perfect lawns, their new cars glinting under the bright Midwestern sun. Just last year, he used to dream about joining them, but now, watching their lives pass by like a movie, he felt stuck in a role he never auditioned for. He had 2 jobs, a mother who needed him, and a heart that felt like it was sinking into a bottomless pit. It was a Sunday, and the family dinner was supposed to be a moment of respite. Instead, the dining room buzzed with unspoken tensions and stifled breaths. Emma, his younger sister, was sitting across from him, her college books stacked precariously beside her. She had grown distant during the last year, absorbed in a world Luke could barely fathom. Their mother, fading fast, was the glue holding them both, but even that seemed to be unsticking. As their stepdad dug into the roast, Luke's chest tightened. "You don't understand what it's like out there," he snapped at Emma when she mentioned her latest stress from school. The words left his mouth before he could take them back, fueling a fire that had been simmering. Emma's eyes flashed, and in a flash of desperation, she pretended to faint, her body slumping like a rag doll. The world scrambled around them, dishes clattered, confusion erupted, and Luke was at her side in an instant, panic etched across his face. "Emma, Emma," he called, but her eyes were on something else, a plan forming with urgent clarity. With trembling fingers, she pulled out her phone, dialing a number he had never seen her use before. The chaos quieted as he crouched next to her, uncertainty swirling. "Hello, Dad?" he heard her whisper, and a piece of Luke's heart clenched. Their father had been absent for years, a dark shadow veiled by military service and unresolved scars. They had long since buried their questions about him, but the truth was clawing its way to the surface. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. A fragile silence settled over the room, the air thick with anticipation. Luke felt the rush of truths finally cascading in like a flood. "You just don't know how hard this is," Emma continued to her phone, vulnerability spilling out, raw and real. "We need to talk about what happened after you came home." The revelation cut through him, swelling like a tide, a shared trauma that had silenced their family for too long. Luke realized then that they had both been carrying the burdens alone. The secrets wrapped around their father were more than just rumors. They were roads of pain that had altered their paths. As the weight of their unspoken history pressed down on them all, Luke felt a spark flicker in the darkness, a chance for healing. But doubts danced in the back of his mind. Would they find forgiveness? Or would the shadows of the past pull them into despair once more? As Emma's eyes met his, an electric connection shimmered between them, hope, fear, and the inexplicable bond of siblings. The night was far from over, and so much lay ahead. The air hung thick with emotion as Luke watched Emma feverishly talk to their father. Each word poured from her lips, a desperate plea for connection, for understanding. Luke's heart hammered against his chest. He wanted to reach out, to comfort her, but a cloud of doubt settled over him. What if digging into their past would only reopen festering wounds? Emma's voice wavered, a trace of sorrow surfacing as she said, "You don't know the pain we've been through since you left." His throat tightened as those words sank in, piercing through the fog surrounding his thoughts. He had always shielded himself, thinking he could protect Emma from their family's crumbling past. But now, as he listened to her vulnerability, he felt that protection turn into a cage, trapping both of them inside. He could see their stepdad's eyes narrow, suspicion flaring. "What is going on?" he barked, a hard edge creeping into his tone. Luke's stomach twisted. He didn't want to bring more trouble to the shaky ground they stood on. But the moment was begging for honesty. Just it's complicated, Luke said, trying to buy time. But it was Emma who broke the tension, her gaze steady, a small yet determined flame igniting within her. If we're going to heal, we need to face it, she replied, unwavering. Her eyes met Luke's, a subtle challenge in them. They both knew the truth couldn't stay buried forever. They had seen the ripple effects of silence, the bottling up of regrets, the uncomfortable glances. Let me talk to him, Emma said, turning her focus back to the call. You need to come home. We deserve answers. Before he fully processed it, Luke felt his feet moving toward her. It was a step into the unknown, a plunge into waters that could either refresh or drown them. Emma, wait, he started, but she waved him off, still lost in her conversation. The room hummed with confusion, tangled emotions splintering off into nervous energy. Their stepdad tossed aside his fork, the clink on the plate sounding like a gunshot. You're going to drag our family through more of this? He's not worth it. His voice was strident, a wall of authority daring them to breach it. Dad is worth knowing, Emma shouted back, her cheeks flushing with vigor. Luke felt the flicker within him mirror her fire. Maybe facing their father was the only way forward. I never wanted to see him again, Luke spat, tension coiling tightly between them. Feelings of anger surged up alongside his fatigue, emotionally weary from shouldering responsibilities. He wasn't ready to face the man who'd abandoned them. It'll just open old wounds. Then we'll find healing together. There was a break in her voice, a glimmer peeking through the cracks in her facade. She turned back to the phone, gripping it fiercely. This isn't just about you and me, Luke. It's about Mom. It's about us moving forward. Luke inhaled sharply. They had been standing still for too long. Perhaps it was time to stir the pot. Would reaching out bring them closer, or rip their family further apart? The thought spiraled in his head, resting his heart anew as he watched Emma speak with such conviction. With a swift motion, he reached out and covered her hand with his. Okay, let us do it. As she turned to look at him, her eyes lit up with gratitude, but the tension remained. The choice hung in the air, looming over them. Would their father's return bring clarity or further chaos? Their future edged closer, a delicate line drawn between healing and heartbreak. Will he even want to talk? Luke questioned, doubts still echoing. But as Emma held his gaze, determination glimmered anew. We deserve to find out. Just then, the phone crackled. Luke's breath caught in his throat. The voice on the other end was distant. I'm coming home. And as hope swelled, the chill of uncertainty wrapped its icy fingers around Luke's spine. The next chapter was unfolding, but what awaited them on the other side? The moment Emma set the phone down, the weight of what they'd just agreed to lingered in the air like smoke. Luke still could hardly breathe, half hoping this was a dream, half dreading what lay ahead. Emma looked at him with wide eyes, a mixture of fear and excitement sparking between them. Did that just happen? She asked, her voice shaky. Luke nodded slowly, trying to process the magnitude of their decision. Their stepdad cleared his throat, tension visible in every line of his face. You really believe he'll come back for us? His disbelief was a punch to the gut. Luke could feel his own resentment bubbling just beneath the surface. What did their stepdad know about their father? I believe he should, Emma replied, steadfast as ever. What if he doesn't care? Their stepdad's question landed heavily, doubt seeped into the air. It felt like a balloon was being slowly deflated, leaving the hope they'd just shared vulnerable. I care, Luke said, surprising even himself. The words bubbled up, a rush of honesty he couldn't hold back. We might have been abandoned, but that doesn't mean we should stay stuck in the past. Maybe, just maybe, there's a chance for something different. It was Emma who nodded this time, her hand still wrapped in his. He could feel her pulse race. It seemed to match the rhythm of the beat of his own heart, both surging with an energy of possibility. Their lives had spiraled into chaos when their father walked away. It had been just the three of them against the world until their stepdad barged in and tried to take over. Luke wished he could turn back time, fix everything, but he knew wistful thinking would change nothing. They had to face the truth head-on even if it hurt. What about Mom? Emma's question hung heavy, the gentle reminder of their mother's absence slicing through Luke's thoughts. Would she want them to reach out? Or would it be a betrayal to the memory of the woman who had also stood by them despite everything? With hesitation, Luke let out a breath. We can't hide from it anymore. Mom deserves to have peace too. We have to see if he can bring some closure. Closure, Emma whispered, half to herself. There was a flicker of hope igniting her features, one that seemed to lighten the oppressive air that surrounded them. Before Luke could respond, their stepdad interrupted again. This is a huge mistake. You really think he is going to show up? Luke met his gaze unwaveringly. We have a right to know why he left. So yes, we do. The silence thickened, each member of the room locked in their own swirling thoughts. Just then, an unexpected knock echoed through the house. The noise made both Emma and Luke jump, their eyes darting toward the door. Who could that be? Their stepdad brushed past them and swung the door open. The moment hung in the air, time seemingly slowing, hearts racing. Standing there, shoulders tense and face pale as a ghost, was a familiar figure one Luke had never expected to see again. His father's eyes met his, revealing raw emotions, a combination of regret and hope. Luke's heart plunged. This was the man who had chosen to leave them behind. Awkward silence enveloped the room. Luke could barely process the confusion rising within him. Would he embrace the father he had longed to forget, or would he unleash a torrent of resentment? Hey, their father stammered, breaking the stillness. The words felt inadequate, a pitiful attempt at reconnecting. In that moment, Luke faced the truth. This was at the moment that could either tear them apart or stitch back together the frayed edges of their lives. What do you want? Luke croaked, the anger barely hidden in his voice. But he didn't expect the answer that followed more than you'll ever know. Luke's heart raced as he processed his father's words. The air crackled with tension, intense and suffocating. Emma stepped back slightly, her grip on Luke's hand tightening as if it were a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. Their stepdad stood there, his expression unreadable, yet the muscles in his jaw tightened as if ready for a fight. More than I'll ever know? Luke echoed, bitterness lacing his tone. You didn't seem to care enough when you left. What could possibly justify showing up now? Their father looked older than Luke remembered, gray streaking through his once dark hair, but his eyes burned with an intensity Luke had never seen before. I know I don't deserve your trust, but I've thought about you both every single day. I made mistakes. I chose wrong. Chose wrong? Emma murmured, disbelief twisting her features. You didn't just miss a few birthdays, you abandoned us. Do you realize what that does to a person? I do now, he said, the pain cutting through his voice. It took me a long time to understand how my actions hurt you. But I've changed. I want to make amends. Luke shook his head slowly. Each syllable felt like a feeble attempt at healing a wound too deep to mend. You just want to play the part of the caring father now? His voice cracked, a wave of hurt crashing over him. Do you think this is that easy? Please, let me explain, their father urged, stepping closer, desperation lacing his tone. He was unsteady, as if every step took him further into uncertain waters. It wasn't just about you or your mom. I was struggling with my own demons. Before he could finish, Luke cut him off. Don't you dare try to make excuses. We've spent years wondering what went wrong, wondering if we were ever worth staying for. And now you show up because you want to offload your guilt? Luke, stop. Emma interjected, her voice rising with urgency, her face a strong mirror of mixed emotions. Maybe he is right. Maybe he has changed. What? Luke turned to Emma, disbelief flooding his senses. You believe him? After everything? I don't know what to believe, she said, her eyes filling with tears. They glistened like small pools of anguish, and Luke felt a stab in his chest. But I can't pretend he doesn't deserve a chance to explain himself. For us, for Mom. The tension electrified the air, and Luke found himself torn between the anger that kept him grounded and a sliver of hope that flickered dimly behind his doubt. Listen, their father said, his voice steadying. You deserve the truth, each of you. I have things to say that might help us understand why I did what I did. Luke felt as if the ground beneath him was shifting. Could he really let this man back into their lives? Did they even really want the truth, or did they just want closure? As seconds passed, Each beat of their hearts now harmonized with the conviction forming in Luke's mind. But before he could respond, the room's atmosphere shifted again. There was a sudden loud crash from outside, followed by muffled voices. Luke's heart dropped as he darted his gaze toward the window. "Wait, what is happening?" Emma asked, panic creeping into her voice. "Let us go check," their stepdad said, moving toward the door. "Dad, stay here," Luke said hurriedly, unsure of what they were facing outside, but knowing they couldn't let it disrupt this moment. Yet something told him that whatever lay ahead might force them to confront more than just their father's return. As the voices grew louder, the tension in the room shifted once again. Luke felt a strange unease spreading through him, an awareness that this day might offer more twists than even he could imagine. "Something's wrong," Luke muttered, his instincts kicking in. Fear gripped his heart as a new challenge loomed, one that could change everything. Emma's eyes darted around the room, her worry palpable. "We can't just ignore it, Luke," she whispered urgently. Her grip on his hand was firm, but he could feel her trembling. "What if it's something serious?" "I know," he replied, his voice low. "But I can't." Just before he could finish, the door swung open, and their stepdad stepped out, glancing over his shoulder at them. "Stay close," he said, a shadow of concern darkening his features. Luke's heart raced. The uneasy feeling coating his stomach churned as he followed Emma and their stepdad outside. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows on the ground. The air was thick, charged with a frantic energy. They made their way to the source of the commotion, a small group gathered by the side of the road. A car lay half on the sidewalk, its rear bumper crumpled against a flower bed. The garden gnome that had once stood proudly toppled over, its ceramic cap cracked. Luke's breath caught as he recognized a familiar face in the throng. Kevin, a friend from the neighborhood. He knelt next to a woman who had fallen, her hands clutching her ankle, a mixture of shock and pain etched across her face. "Stay still," Kevin was saying, his voice steady although fear flickered in his eyes. "Help is on the way." "What happened?" Luke found himself asking, but the question hung in the air unanswered. Emma took a step forward, her heart racing as she caught sight of the woman. "That's Mrs. Henderson," she gasped, her voice trembling. "She walks her dog by our house every morning." "Is she okay?" "Mom, call 911." Luke shouted back, urging their stepdad into action. Their father's expression, once hardened, softened with concern. "I got it," he said, pulling out his phone. As he dialed, Luke forced himself to focus. He knelt beside Kevin, wanting to help but unsure how. "What do we do?" he asked, trying to keep calm. "Just keep her still," Kevin replied, glancing at the gathering crowd. "Someone should really keep the other cars clear. She could have a serious injury." As they waited, Luke's thoughts drifted back to his father's presence. It felt absurd, standing here, grappling with their family's past while the world around him was unraveling. The sirens in the distance drew closer, the wailing sound washing over him. But then, at that moment, a familiar voice broke through the tension around them. "Luke." "Emma." It was Grace, an old schoolmate, running toward them with wide eyes. "You won't believe what just happened on my block. There's been another crash, but this one it's massive." "What do you mean?" Luke's instincts flared, his ears tuning into her words like radar. "Another car flipped over. And they think." Grace hesitated, her breath shaky. "They think the driver might be someone from our school. I don't know all the details, but you need to see this." Time seemed to still as the weight of her revelation hung in the air. Everything else faded, replaced by urgency and fear. "Wait." Luke felt a rush of panic. "Is everyone okay?" I don't know," she whispered as she turned back the way she came, but the deep concern in her voice spoke louder than anything. Luke turned to Emma, her face paled in realization. "We need to get there, now," he urged, and instead of feeling the familiar anger over their father's return, an unsettling dread pooled in the pit of his stomach. As they started towards Grace's direction, the sound of sirens behind them mingled with the escalating worry that twisted the air. Whatever lay ahead was more than just a crash. It was a test of their relationships, their choices, and possibly their very futures. Do you think? Emma began, her voice trailing off. The question weighted with dread. I don't know, Luke replied, his heart pounding. The notion that something even bigger than their family drama was unfolding loomed over them, threatening to change everything at one breathless moment ahead. The crowd thickened as Luke and Emma pushed through, their hearts racing in tandem. Each step felt heavy, charged with anticipation. Bystanders murmured to one another, casting glances toward the wreckage a little further down the road. The sun had dipped lower now, painting the sky in swirling shades of orange and pink, but failing to brighten the dread settling in Luke's chest. As they reached Grace, she was breathless, her eyes wide with uncertainty. It's just up ahead, she said, pointing. They sealed off the street. I think someone else hurt really badly. Who is driving? Emma asked, her voice barely audible over the growing buzz of anxiety around them. Grace shook her head, her lips pressed together. I didn't catch a name. They said a kid from school. That's all I know. They edged closer, weaving in and out of the throng of people. Luke felt Emma grip his arm tightly, her nails biting into his skin, but he didn't mind. It grounded him somehow, a reminder that they were in this together. Then they spotted a young man sprawled awkwardly in front of a flipped car with police officers kneeling beside him, their faces tight with concern. Luke's breath hitched. He recognized the jacket. It was Tyler, a popular kid known for his charm and charisma. He had a reputation that fluttered through the hallways like a rumor, but now all that seemed so irrelevant. What happened? Emma whispered, fear lacing her voice. I don't know, Luke replied, his eyes locked on Tyler, who appeared unresponsive. Is he? A dull gasp rippled through the crowd, punctuated by someone saying, "Yes," breathing. Relief washed over Luke, but it was fleeting. Tyler was in no condition to respond, and the knowledge that he might be seriously hurt gnawed at him. Questions flooded his mind. Would he make it? How could such a vibrant spirit end up like this? Just then, the screech of tires echoed nearby. An ambulance careened around the corner, lights flashing urgently. The crowd parted like waves, revealing a path for the medics. The team jumped from the vehicle, urgency etched on their faces, mirrors of everyone's rising anxiety. I can't just stand here, Emma said resolutely, her grip loosening on Luke's arm. I need to know he's okay. Before he could stop her, she stepped forward, determination radiating from her. Luke didn't want to let her go alone. There was strength in numbers. Wait, he called after her, hurrying to catch up. Emma turned back, her eyes glimmering with a mixture of fear and defiance. What if it's really bad? We can't just pretend it's not happening. But the paramedics rushed past, ignoring the crowd's murmurs, calling out instructions. Luke felt the urge to follow, to protect, but anxiety clawed at him. It felt all-consuming. Emma, please. That was when they heard the panicked voice of a woman behind them. Someone's faking it. It's not real. Panic flared inside the group. All eyes turned towards the edge of the scene where a figure lay on the ground away from the commotion. Luke squinted, catching sight of a girl in a purple hoodie. She looked familiar. Is that Lena? He breathed. I know her. Emma's focus shifted. What is she doing? As if sensing their gaze, the girl blinked, her eyes flashing open before closing as she groaned, feigning injury. The tension surged again. Someone get her, Emma said, breaking into a sprint as Luke followed, heart racing. Wait, he called after her. What if she's no? We need to find out what's going on. Emma yelled back, and then without another word, she plunged into the group surrounding Lena. Luke felt his stomach lurch. Who is she? What was she trying to pull? He caught up, but just as he reached Emma, Lena let out a loud gasp and sat up abruptly. Tension shifted and rippled through the crowd, eyes darting between the two scenes unfolding before them. Wait, what is she doing? Luke exclaimed, feeling the fierce grip of reality tighten around him, a thread drawing him deeper into a web of uncertainty. Is she really faking it? Emma's eyes narrowed, realization setting in with a chilling clarity. But what if she knows something? The question hovered in the air, thick with implications. Whatever Lena's game was, it had the potential to change everything. Luke felt the hair on the back of his neck stand up. What truth was lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to be exposed? The crowd had almost forgotten about Tyler as whispers of Lena's act surged like a wild current. Luke's heart pounded in his chest. Lena was the type who didn't shy away from drama, but this felt different. The reality of the situation pressed heavily on his shoulders, each beat of his heart underscoring the urgency of the moment. Emma was already at Lena's side, her concern palpable. "Lena, what are you doing?" she cried, bending over her friend, eyes wide and searching. Lena's smirk was quickly replaced by a grimace. She winced, as if the act of pulling herself upright shocked her system. I thought I'd get some attention," she muttered, her voice low. The crowd shifted, simmering with curiosity and judgment. Luke felt the weight of their stares. "This isn't a joke," he said sharply, stepping forward. "You need to call for help if you're really hurt." "I'm fine." Lena snapped, her bravado cracking, revealing remnants of fear. It was a moment of vulnerability that Luke hadn't expected. "I just wanted to know what was going on with the accident. I didn't think it would turn into, well, this." Behind them, the ambulance crew was working feverishly around Tyler, their voices rising above the murmurs of the crowd. Luke's gaze flickered back to the scene. The urgency of their work was a stark reminder that lives hung in the balance. "Lena, focus." Emma's voice cut through the haze of confusion. "You need to tell us what really happened. Did you see the accident?" Lena hesitated, her expression shifting. "I saw Tyler swerving. He was looking at something or someone," she stammered, uncertainty creeping into her words. "Then it happened so fast. There was a loud crash, and I don't know." Luke felt a chill run down his spine. "You were there?" "I was close by," she replied, her voice quieter now. "I thought he was just being reckless or something. But why would you pretend to be hurt?" Emma pressed, her eyes narrowing in scrutiny. Lena finally broke, her bravado fully waning as tears welled in her eyes. "I didn't know how to handle it. Everyone perceives him as this perfect guy. I thought if I faked it, maybe what?" Luke challenged, crossing his arms. "Maybe someone would notice that sometimes it isn't all perfect." "Not for him, not for me," she whispered, her voice breaking. Those words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken truths. Luke's heart softened as he glimpsed the cracks beneath Lena's tough exterior. "This isn't the way to get help," he said, his voice gentler now. "What if he doesn't make it, and you were just here faking?" Emma touched Lena's arm, a gesture of solidarity. "We can't afford to be careless. If Tyler needs us suddenly," a loud shout erupted from the medics, interrupting them. "Stand back. We need to stabilize him." The crowd collectively held its breath, every face now turned toward Tyler, who lay motionless on the ground. Luke gripped Emma's hand, desperately clinging to hope as they exchanged troubled looks. "What if he can't breathe properly?" Emma whispered, fear darkening her features. "What if an airbag puffed abruptly as it popped from the wreck, the noise startling everyone?" Lena shot a quick glance over her shoulder, her eyes narrowing again. "Wait, I think I saw something near the car earlier, something odd." "What do you mean?" Luke asked, leaning closer, his pulse quickening. Something was missing that didn't belong. The weight of her words settled over them. What could Lena have seen that would change everything? Luke felt a swell of urgency as he took a step closer to her. "You have to tell us. Now." As they waited for her next words, a thought echoed in his mind. What if Lena's revelation about Tyler was deeper than the accident? What if it reached into the heart of their tangled lives? "Lena, what do you know?" Luke urged, his voice barely above a whisper, just as another siren wailed in the distance, foreshadowing a turn in their already dizzying night. What truth could be hiding in plain sight? Lena's gaze darted nervously to the ground, her mind racing as if trying to gather the fragmented memories of that fateful moment. The crowd was a pulsating mass of curiosity and fear. Luke could see the flicker of hesitation in her eyes, and he could feel a change in the air. "Lena, please," he squeezed Emma's hand tightly, his heart pounding louder. "What did you see?" She blinked rapidly, clearly grappling with her emotions. I swear, it all happens so fast. But I know I saw someone at the edge of the road, standing there like they were waiting for him to crash. Luke's stomach dropped. What? A person? Who? I couldn't see their face. Just the silhouette. Lena's voice trembled, blending with the distant sirens. It was dark. I thought maybe it was just my imagination, you know? But now you think it's important? Emma asked, her voice rising as if fueled by adrenaline. Lena nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. Maybe it wasn't an accident at all. A ripple of gasps washed through the crowd, and Luke's heart sank deeper. The weight of those words pressed heavily on him. If this was deliberate, we need to tell the medics. They need all the information they can get about Tyler's condition. Before Lena could respond, a loud voice broke through the tension. An officer had arrived at the scene, weaving through onlookers. Step back, everyone. He raised his hands, trying to maintain order amidst the chaos. Luke felt the officer's authoritative gaze brush over them briefly, his focus shifting to the ambulance struggling to stabilize Tyler. Lena, don't you dare keep this to yourself, Luke urged, urgency flooding his voice. You have to tell them what you told us. I don't know, Luke, she said, panic blossoming in her wide eyes. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm just imagining things? Then what is the harm? Emma interjected, stepping closer. We can't afford to stay silent. Tyler's life could be on the line. Lena took a shaky breath, the weight of the moment collapsing into clarity. Her thoughts swirled, and Luke watched as she steeled herself. Okay, I'll tell them. Luke could feel the flicker of hope. Good, let us move. He turned back toward the crowd when suddenly, a high-pitched scream pierced the night air. People turned, scanning for the source. What was that? Emma exclaimed, her eyes widening. The crowd parted, revealing a frantic figure pushing through. A boy, wild-eyed and disheveled, stumbled into the space, collapsing to his knees. Tyler! Tyler! He shouted, his voice cracking with desperation. Luke's heartbeat quickened. Who is that? He asked, his eyes darting to Lena. I think it's Derek, Lena said, her voice barely audible over the chaos. Tyler's brother. Derek looked up, locking eyes with Lena. What happened? I saw the crash. He turned to the crowd, panic etched on his face. Someone needs to tell me what's going on. Is he alive? Lena took a deep breath. Derek, please just give me a moment. I know things aren't what they seem. I just need to tell them what I saw, then do it. Derek shouted, positioning himself forward. For Tyler's sake. In that instant, everything felt suspended. The world around them shifted as if holding its breath. Luke could see Lena weighing her words. Would she reveal the truth? As she opened her mouth to speak, a piercing siren echoed louder, drowning out her voice. Luke felt the terror rise again, clenching his stomach tight. What if Lena's next words could change everything? What if they gave Derek the explanation he so desperately needed? Lena, Luke urged gently, what do you want to say? But just then, another twist took hold of the night, one that threatened to unravel everything. Derek's eyes flickered with a mix of hope and confusion, but before Lena could speak, a loud crash echoed from the nearby road. A motorcycle roared into view, swerving dramatically around the corner and screeching to a halt. The engine died, and the rider, a girl with tangled hair and a leather jacket, jumped off, rushing toward the scene like a whirlwind. Get away from him, she shouted, pushing through the crowd. Her features were fierce, even as worry overtook her expression. She knelt beside Derek but didn't seem to see him. What happened? Where is Tyler? The commotion threw Luke off balance. Who is she? He felt Lena's tension beside him, her body taut with uncertainty. Do you know Tyler? Lena asked, hesitantly. Of course. I'm Megan, the girl replied, her voice shaking with emotions. He's my best friend. I was just down the street. She trailed off, catching sight of the ambulance parked haphazardly on the roadside, its lights flashing in a chaotic dance. Is he okay? Derek pleaded, his voice cracking again, a stark contrast to Megan's anger. I don't know, Lena stammered. We saw the crash, it didn't look good. The crowd began muttering again, nerves spiraling. Luke stepped closer to Lena, ready to offer her support. "You have to tell them what you saw," he urged in a low voice. "If this was intentional, they need to know." Lena's eyes were fixed on the ground, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. I will." She took a shaky breath. Before she could speak again, an officer approached them with a focused look. "You three," he called out, urgency in his tone. "We need to know what you saw. It's critical." Lena's hands trembled. The officer shifted his gaze to Derek and Megan as well. "You were all close? You heard or saw anything unusual?" Luke felt a rush of heat rise in his chest. This was the moment. The truth was teetering on Lena's lips, and yet he could see her battling it. Would she say something that could save Tyler? Or would her fear paralyze her? "There was someone at the edge of the road," Lena finally blurted, her voice rising above the noise. "A person. I think they were waiting for Tyler." Megan's face blanched, and Derek shot her a look that mixed shock and confusion. "Are you sure?" Derek pressed, his face pale as he looked between Lena and the officer. "You really think it was deliberate?" Lena hesitated, chewing her lip. "I don't know. But they were just standing there." Just then, a loud crash came from the direction of the ambulance. Everyone turned. The paramedics had dropped a medical bag, its contents spilling out, creating a small stampede of movement as people scrambled to help. In the chaos, Lena's voice broke through again. I have to tell Derek the rest." "Tell me what?" Derek snapped, frustration tinging his tone. "It's about that night the day before the crash. Something happened between Tyler and that silhouette." The crowd seemed to recede, their eyes blinking in disbelief. Luke felt a chill, the night's air shifting. Derek stood frozen, the fire of his initial panic giving way to a new kind of urgency. "What does that mean?" Emma asked quietly, her breath caught in her throat. "I don't know yet, but it has to do with why they might have been there." Silence enveloped them as the gravity of her words sank in. Luke felt the weight of Derek's desperate stare on Lena, a mixture of rage and need for answers coursing through the air. "Then we need to figure it out, fast," Derek said, resolute. Just then, a distant rumble of thunder rolled in. A storm was coming, echoing the turmoil brewing in their hearts. "Let us go find out the truth," Luke said, glancing at Lena, who nodded, fear mixing with determination. What had Lena uncovered? What fatal connection linked Tyler and that silhouette? As they moved toward potential answers, the shadows of the night loomed, suggesting that the truth, when revealed, might change everything. The air crackled with electricity as Luke, Emma, Lena, and Derek hurried down the block, driven by an urgency that felt palpable, like the gathering storm clouds above. Each step felt heavier than the last. Questions spiraled in Luke's mind. What had Lena seen? Who had that silhouette belonged to? Every fiber of his being screamed for clarity. When they reached the crumpled car, the sight of Tyler lying still sent a tremor through Luke. Paramedics were working tirelessly, their voices firm but tinged with an underlying tension that mirrored their own. "Please, let him be okay," Emma whispered, her eyes glistening with tears. Across the parking lot, the distant echo of sirens grew louder, blending with the murmurs of the gathering crowd. Officers worked to keep them at bay, but the magnetic pull of fear and concern pulled them closer like moths to a flame. "Lena," Luke prompted as they slipped away from the crowd, their hearts racing. "What do you think happened? You need to tell us everything." "I don't know," Lena stammered, her gaze darting anxiously. "But when I saw that figure it didn't feel right. I could sense something was off." Derek's jaw clenched. "Then why didn't you say anything sooner, Lena? What were you waiting for?" "Because I didn't want to be wrong. I didn't want to look foolish," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Luke felt a surge of empathy. "We know you were struggling. But if there was a chance this was intentional, it is." Lena burst out, her frustration bubbling over. "Something was planned. I knew it." The intensity of her words hung in the air like a thick fog. Luke looked at Emma, who nodded solemnly. "They needed to act." "Derek," Emma said, her voice softening in an attempt to calm the storm brewing in his eyes. "We need you to focus. You love Tyler. What can you tell us? Did he mention anyone? Any threats?" Derek's eyes narrowed, his brows furrowing in concentration. Actually, yeah. He had mentioned someone. A guy from school. Jake. They had a falling out a few weeks ago. Jake? Luke echoed, a knot tightening in his stomach. Is that the same guy who is known for starting trouble? Yeah, said some things I guess, but I didn't think it could escalate like this. Derek's voice broke, and Luke could see a storm brewing behind his eyes, the simmering fury fighting to find a path through his helplessness. Maybe we can find him, Luke said quickly. If we find Jake, we might get answers. Or he could be hiding, Lena added, if he knows he's involved. Emma's hand gripped Luke's, their silent pact to keep pushing forward. He glanced at her, and saw a steely determination reflected in her expression, the same fiery spirit that had been rekindled during their family's unraveling. The group moved swiftly, retracing Tyler's steps. Every glance they exchanged grew laden with the gravity of their choices. Feet pounding on the pavement felt rhythmic, each echo racing toward the possibility of closure. Then, they spotted him. Jake stood leaning against a wall, arms crossed, a nonchalant smirk plastered on his face. The flicker of recognition ignited something within Luke. Hey, Luke shouted, approaching with urgency. We need to talk. Jake turned, surprise flickering in his eyes. What do you want? About Tyler, Luke demanded, pushing aside his mounting anger. What happened? We think you might know something. The tough exterior momentarily faltered, confusion dancing across his features. I didn't do anything to him. He was just being reckless. Reckless or not, someone might have orchestrated this accident, Emma pressed, stepping closer. Were you at the scene? Did you see anything? No. Jake snapped, defiance erupting in his voice. But I overheard someone talking about him earlier. Who? Lena jumped in, eyes wide with anticipation. Just some guys. Nothing serious, really. They were joking, saying something bad would happen during the race. Race? Luke echoed, mind racing. What race? Jake rolled his eyes, irritation flashing across his face. Once a year, a stupid street race happens down by the old mill. Tyler was a part of it probably. Thought he'd win something. Lena clutched her phone, gaining momentum as everything clicked into place. The crash wasn't just an accident. It was linked to that race. Someone wanted to send a message, Derek realized, despair edging his voice. Luke fought back a wave of emotion. Everyone deserved answers. You need to be honest with us. Who else was talking about Tyler? If this was planned, someone has to be involved. Jake hesitated, a shadow crossing over his features. I think it was someone from the other side of town. I don't remember names, just faces. But if you care about him, I want to help. Hope ignited again, the anchoring truth that guided them toward justice began to take shape. Let us go back, Luke said resolutely, determination sinking within him. If we piece together what happened, we might just save Tyler. Together, they made their way back toward the accident scene, determination igniting their steps. It was a race against time, their last chance to prevent any further heartache. As they reached the scene again, everything felt heightened, the air thickened with possibility. Luke turned, forming a new bond with the people next to him, uniting in a common cause. There's still time. We will figure this out together, he said, and with every beat of his heart, he believed them. Behind them, sirens echoed, a distant reminder that even through the storm outside, they were growing stronger together. The truth awaited them, an untold beauty ready to mend their frayed edges and deliver the clarity they so desperately sought. Before you go, this is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it really helps us out. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending, we want to hear from you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.